Good afternoon. This is Scott Palmer. I'm the Executive Officer of the Builders and Remodelers Association of Greater Boston. Welcome to our webinar today on Wednesday, October 2nd. I am recording this webinar. We will download it and post it for rebroadcast through YouTube. And today I would like to introduce Lorraine Furtnoy of the Senior Sales Representative of Velux. She'll be presenting today on Skylights offering a unique solution. I am going to be muting your telephones, but if you have any questions, you can use the chat feature to ask questions, and we will open the phones up after the presentation is complete. So right now, I'll give the presentation over to Lorraine, and she can start her presentation.
Thanks a lot, Scott. I really appreciate that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. So first, I wanted to say thanks to Scott and everybody over at BRAGB for helping me organize this presentation today. Again, my name is Lauren Furtney. I am the local sales rep for Velux Skylights. I cover pretty much Central Mass. I just like to say Worcester to Boston. If you are joining the call today and you're in the New Hampshire area or do work there or more in the Cape and Rhode Island, we do have local sales reps in those areas that are more than happy to help on any projects that you might be looking at. So we'll get started here. I think I have to. Make sure you guys can see my screen okay. So as Scott mentioned, I will be discussing unique solutions for really today's new home challenges, and not necessarily they have to be new builds. I know there's a lot of remodeling going on, and really my goal today is to not try to reinvent the wheel, but hopefully I got some good stuff that maybe you didn't know, maybe a few things that you were aware of that we can bring to the forefront of the brain. But I think the goal is to show that skylights are really pretty relevant. I do hear sometimes, you know, people don't ask for skylights anymore. And sometimes I could agree with that statement, but I think if we read between the lines, skylights have really not gone out of style because what we're offering is daylight and fresh air. And I don't think any homeowner is ever asking for pitch black in a dungeon with stuffy breathing air and so on and so forth. So some of the things I'm going to talk today are more conceptual, meaning daylight and fresh air. It's very difficult to kind of show those things without a visualization. So we'll show some nice visualizations to really get you an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. I'm going to sprinkle in some product throughout the first part of the presentation, and at the end I'm going to show you some new product. If you've been using Velux for a really long time, I think the general consensus is that yes, we still make skylights and roof windows, but we are constantly making new products. So stay tuned at the end. I have a couple new things that maybe you haven't seen before that would be helpful. Okay, second, it doesn't want to. All right. So the things that we're going to cover today is really the 4 unique solutions that skylights are really very great at helping solve. And those are going to be the demand for more daylight, demand for more living space when we're trying to do remodels, additions, or new homes, how we can help with energy efficient homes or green homes, and then a really obvious one as in privacy concerns, which sometimes we don't think about, but they are a great solution for that. So builders, architects, remodelers, we all have a choice of how we're going to get daylight into our homes, and it's almost second nature. We do it in three main ways. We have a dormer, a standard vertical window, and of course top lighting with a skylight. There was a study done that we talk about in an AIA presentation that we offer from the Danish Building Research Institute. And if you've spent much time with the Danes, they are pretty light starved for most of the year. and their energy rates are extremely high. So this was a study that was very important to them, because how can they harness that daylight, more of it, for the least amount of cost in terms of turning on lights and so on and so forth. What they found in their study is that skylights naturally bring in, for the same size skylight, bring in twice as much light as the same size vertical window, and 3 times as much light as the same size window in terms of a dormer. So it's pretty intuitive if you think about how skylights are actually directed right up towards the sun. They are constantly getting either direct sunlight or diffuse sunlight. So given that, skylights do a very, very good job of lighting the complete core of a space, where vertical windows do a very good job lighting the perimeter or outside of a space. And really, I always mention in every presentation that I do that in no way, shape, or form are we trying to say to reduce or get rid of vertical windows. They absolutely have their place, but we think if doing them together, skylights with vertical windows, is going to be the very best way to bring in natural daylight throughout the entire core or building envelope of your space. So with that being said, skylights really have a higher wall luminance. So this really results in a softer transition from your sidewalls, and therefore it brings a lot of drama into your space. So I understand when I'm talking to people who are trying to design that you're never sitting down with your plans and saying, okay, where are we going to put the skylights? But it's always, where are we going to bring light in from? Because, you know, the things that are very important to homeowners, which being the design and bathrooms and kitchens and things that we put a lot of money into, they always look better with natural daylight. So if we can do this strategically, it's very, very important to make sure that it's well daylight throughout the entire core of a building. Here's another piece of the Danish Building Research Institute. This a little bit touches on energy efficiency, which I'm going to readdress later on. But really what this is saying is this is 2 side-by-side you know, overviews, and it's actually showing if you move the decimal point in the middle there, 2.5, it's actually showing 25 in terms of daylight factor. What it's showing is, if you look at the picture on the left, this is a visualization using just vertical windows. We have 30% window to floor area here, which is a pretty high number. And again, like I mentioned, you're getting a lot of really great light right on the perimeter of the space. On the outside, you get about 69 foot candles. And to give you guys a good idea, about 50 foot candles is really recommended for doing some type of task where you don't have to require turning on a light. In the center of that, 25 foot candles, you would almost need to turn on a light to do anything really high task. Where as opposed to on the right side, we've reduced the amount of glazing down to 10%. So we've reduced it 20% by using a combination of both skylights and vertical windows. And you can see here now, not only is the perimeter still very, very well lit, but also now we have a really nice lighting throughout the core of the entire building. We realize that this is probably not your standard building model, or else you'd probably be fired, but we know it's not an open concept, but you get the general idea here that by top lighting, it's going to bring more light in, and again, reduce the glazing, which we'll talk about in a minute in terms of importance to energy efficiency. But in terms of lighting, it's really going to do a very good job overall. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures here. Like I mentioned before, skylights are extremely conceptual. It's really hard to visualize for a homeowner or builder, remodeler, architect, what it's going to look like in a space. These are some before and after renderings that we do, and we can touch upon this a little bit later. With our own Velux rendering system, we can get very, very specific between time of day, time of year, size of skylights, but you get a very good idea here that by adding some top light, it really changes the space. In this photo here, we did eliminate the vertical window, but really just for the point of showing you that it didn't bring in any less, it didn't bring in any, actually brought in more light, and I don't think you're missing any of the light coming from the vertical window. So either way, you can leave the window in there, but you're also not missing much if you take it out. And here's an example here where we have both, and there's not too much of difference between one versus the other. There's some options in a bedroom, and we're going to have these throughout the presentations. Now, for some reason in the Northeast here, sun tunnels or tubular skylights have really not caught on like they have in other parts of the country. I'm not quite sure why, but they are out in California and the Midwest. They have companies that solely just install sun tunnels or tubular skylights, and that's all they do. So there's a very high need for them. They're starting to gain popularity here, but really for interior spaces where it's very difficult, where you can't get a vertical window, and yeah, it's very difficult to get a skylight, there's a really nice solution in a tubular skylight, which we call a sun tunnel. It's just a tubular skylight that drops from the roof down to, you know, wherever you're trying to achieve. We do recommend about an 8 to 10 foot run, but you know, it really depends. I think there's a lot of gray area when you're doing this application, but it's really great for things like hallways, bathrooms, master walk-in closets, where there's a lot of fine detail, and adding natural daylight really just accentuates, you know, your design and what you've done there. So moving on to more of the demand for more living space. I'm sure all of you have been stuck in that HGTV vortex like I have on Saturdays. It seems like we're always trying to accommodate space for maybe older family members that are trying to move in, teen spaces, man caves. And really what we're going to talk about here is Velux has been saying it a long time, is the room below the roof. A lot of times with your current footprint or maybe building out, it's not really an option to build out anymore because maybe you can't with your lot lines, or there's a lot of different reasons. But you can already use that thumbprint that you already have and really build up into your space. I took this picture a few weeks ago on a job site. Very common now that we're seeing these common trusses. They are perfect for, you know, what they're doing there in terms of support and the roof system. However, it's really diminishing a lot of space that heard somebody say one time, it looks like spaghetti noodles up there. So you have a lot of workable space that now you can't use because of all the structure up there. And we've talked to builders and remodelers before, by just making a few slight changes in your truss layout by using maybe something like an attic truss. Now you have an opportunity to offer more square footage, probably that's going to be a little bit more affordable, and a really great way to daylight this space naturally is with skylights. So if you were going to change from a common truss to an attic truss, it's going to be a little bit more of an expensive option, but I think once you add the square footage in the living space, it's really an incremental cost. You're going to get a lot more value, and of course you're going to increase the square footage, which will thus increase the sales value. I've seen builders and remodelers do this a couple of different ways. I've seen the space left unfinished, but the bones are there, so you can really, the option for the homeowner to refinish it anytime everything's ready to go, or it's been completely refinished and sold with extra square footage. In terms of profitability, again, adding additional space, you have higher profit margins there, much more efficient land use by building up and not out. I heard this one time, I've heard different people argue this, but typically bonus rooms can really appraise for about 100% of the value, where other spaces that we're adding more square footage like the basement typically only appraise at 40 to 70%. So much better for the homeowner or the end user. And again, much more affordable for the home buyer, especially if they want to refinish later, or get more square footage with the land space they already have. Again, I was going to mention, I'm going to talk mostly about product at the end, but it's really relevant here that if you are wanting to, you know, use this space for something where you would need egress requirements, we do have our European roof windows, which there is a difference between a roof window and a skylight, but the roof windows are really meant for in-reach application. And certain sizes here do meet egress requirements. So should you want to make additional bedrooms and have them count as bedrooms, we do have windows that will meet that in terms of code. So again, here's a few renderings. You can certainly achieve this space with vertical windows and dormers. That's what we see most often. But again, if we're talking about really adding drama and natural daylight to the space, skylights are going to do a very, very good job doing that themselves. An example of a bonus bathroom, obviously a lot of different options up there. So I did mention I was going to show this to you again, and really this is going to now talk about mostly energy codes. I attended a passive solar presentation a couple months back in the middle of the summer, and it was really interesting. We talked for about 20 minutes specifically about glazing and all the different types of glazing that you can use to be more energy efficient and so on and so forth. And the presenter really wrapped up that segment, and I thought it was interesting. He said, you know, ultimately, if you want a very, very energy efficient house, the best way to do it is to reduce the glazing as much as you can possible. He said, but unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword because most people want a lot of natural daylight in their house. And it was kind of finished. That segment was kind of finished at that statement. And I thought to myself, if you use a combination and do it strategically, Skylights can help you do both those things. You can certainly reduce the amount of glazing, making your home much more energy efficient, but also still achieving the natural daylight and meeting the open concept needs that people are wanting in their homes. And again, here's the side-by-side that really proves that 10% window to floor area versus 30, and again, a very, very well lit space there throughout the entire home. I also have, I guess maybe more of it's an older myth, but we have heard Skylights can be an energy drain, which we did just discuss is not necessarily true. But by making slight changes and adding some accessories to the Skylights, it can actually improve the energy efficiency a great amount, as much as 45%. And specifically, this accessory here is an interior blind. It's a double pleated blind. And again, it's going to increase the U value by 45% and the solar heat coefficient by as much as 38%. So I do recommend, if you are specifying Skylights, it's almost a no-brainer to add a blind in there. It can not only help with solar heat gain, but also with solar heat loss. For example, every day at 5 o'clock in the winter, we can schedule those blinds to come down, increase the U value of the window, keep that heat in our home that we've been pumping in there all day long. We're not losing out on any daylight. Unfortunately, it's pitch black at 5 o'clock in the winter. And then we can schedule those to come up again at 7 o'clock in the morning, all without your homeowner having to do anything. So increasing the energy efficiency of the window by just doing a simple window treatment on there is going to be really helpful. So not only with the energy efficiency and the codes getting tighter, obviously tighter building codes create air and moisture issues. Almost every architect I talk to now, it seems like the air exchangers are now being added into new homes, and certainly it's fantastic, but I believe that sometimes it's not completely necessary. If we can allow Mother Nature to move air, she will do a very, very good job of doing it. And what I mean by that is just simply by using the normal stack effect or chimney effect. We have a very simple video that I'll play here, but really it's just, again, Mother Nature letting her move air. It's a difference of your temperature. So your warm air is lighter and your cold air is heavier. So it's going to push it up. We always hear hot air rises, which is true, but it's actually pulled up by heavier, lighter air. So really the idea is, if you have Skylights at the very highest point of our roof where the warm air is going to rise to, by opening them up, you're going to get, the most movement of air. If you have two at opposite ends of the roof, you'll get of course, some cross ventilation. But the very, very best way to move air is by opening up your vertical doors and windows below. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same room. And opening up your Skylights and allowing that cooler air to move in through your vertical windows, push up the hot air and move it up. I will say this is certainly not going to replace an air conditioning in the middle of July, but what it could do by opening up these venting Skylights is reduce the load on your cooling units. So meaning, if it's 90 degrees out and you have all that hot air sitting at the top of your roof, if we open up those Skylights and vertical windows just for a few minutes, get all that hot air out, close them back up again, now we're just putting less of a load on our air conditioning. And same with freshening up a space. If anybody that's listening right now has Skylights and has really felt how that stack effect moves around you, you can feel it pretty quickly that it's moving air fast. It usually only takes about 10 or 15 minutes. Again, I'll reference the study from our AIA that we talk about. They looked at a few different houses, and really what they did is they injected a tracer gas into the home, and they measured that tracer gas and how long it took to dissipate from the home. And really what they found was Skylights and vertical windows in and they call it natural ventilation, had about the same time of dissipation as a whole house fan, which of course we have to plug in and rely on mechanicals for that. It took about 3/4 of a day to get all of those contaminants out, whereas opposed to a home with just vertical windows open, it took about 3 days. So really the point is here, you can move air very, very quickly if you allow Mother Nature to do so. I often get the question, okay, but we still have to open the window as a human being. If you guys are familiar with Velux, for a very, very long time, we've had manual venting skylights where if you're lucky enough to have them in reach, which is about 10% of our windows, you are using a crank handle. If you have them out of reach, then you're playing the carnival game with the pole and hooking up to the skylight and venting it open. We have always made electric skylights. Of course, that would require an electrician to wire up into your ceiling. But now we have venting solar skylights. So we'll talk about that in a little bit with product, but we also have a pairing system called Velux Active. We've had this for about a year and a half now. And really what Velux Active does is it's an indoor air quality monitoring system. So it's connected to our home Wi-Fi. You can control it through an app on your phone. Because it's connected to our home Wi-Fi and our internet, it's connected to our local weather sources, so it knows exactly what's going on outside. There is a piece here called the climate sensor. It's just like a thermostat. It sits on the wall of your home. It detects specifically temperature, but also CO2 and humidity. And by communicating with what's going on outside, it will automatically vent your skylights, depending on your indoor contaminants or what's going on outside, or shade your room. For example, I did install these in my house about a year ago when I realized my skylights were very old, need to replace them. My kitchen is open concept into my living room. And every night when I cook, unbeknownst to me, because I'm trying to get dinner on the table, my CO2 and my humidity goes up, and as long as it's not pouring rain or 3 degrees outside, my skylights detect that my CO2 and my humidity is high. My skylights vent open without me doing anything. It allows the air to move out of the room, really 10 or 15 minutes, and then sometimes they close back down, but sometimes they'll stay open as well. Again, this is all tracked through an app on the phone, but this has been a really great accessory for builders and architects and homeowners that are really into the smart homes and green homes and really just making an effort to live in a healthier home. I'll answer a few more questions on that later. But really it's meant if you're, I always tell roofers and remodelers, if you're selling this like an app on the phone, really that's the most basic thing that it does. It's really meant to monitor the indoor air. So last, I'm going to touch on privacy challenges. There's more rooms than just our bathrooms that really require privacy, but I think the bathrooms are really the obvious ones. We see all of the time, looking at blueprints, is that picture window over the tub. I don't know if that's ever going to go away. I understand it's the connection to nature, but typically what happens very, very quickly is all that daylight that you expect from that picture window, because we're trying to get some privacy, we put a window treatment right over that and probably never step into that tub again to open up that blind. So all that daylight that we might have been getting from that picture window is now gone. Even so, if we look at the center picture here, again, talking in foot candles, it doesn't do a very good job by this second sink. You're probably, if you're going to be applying makeup or shaving or doing something high task, you're likely going to be turning on a light and relying on mechanicals. And don't get me wrong, I know people use lighting all over the place. It's really very important, but nothing can really replicate natural daylight. If you ever heard somebody say, I look different out in the daylight than I do inside, and that's because of course, of how the natural daylight affects us versus the artificial lighting. And then you can see here the same size 3x3 skylight as that window is doing a much better job really lighting the core, and then also it's achieving our privacy. So we can leave that open. We can put a blind on it for energy efficiency, but in terms of getting the daylight in there, we're achieving both natural daylight and privacy on that window. Here's a couple of examples of things that we've seen of the intent to bring in light, but also get the privacy. The transom window, I'm seeing constantly. It doesn't bring in very much light. It's achieving the privacy, but I think, again, there's a more unique solution, if you will, in Skylights by achieving both of those things. I'll show you a few renderings here. So I am going to jump into a little bit of product. Hopefully it's stuff that you've seen before, but if not, some of it is fairly new. The first thing that I always address, because I know it's out there, people tell me almost on a daily basis, we are concerned with skylights leaking. Depending on your homeowner's experience or your experience, whether it was 20 years ago or yesterday, skylights absolutely have that unfortunate connotation that skylights leak. 20 and 30 years ago, there was a lot of manufacturers. Some of them did a better job than others manufacturing skylights, but unfortunately it's muddied the waters for the rest of the category. But I do think there's a reason why Velux is the only one left. And we've always had really, really good luck with our skylights. If you didn't know, about 10 years ago, we completely redesigned our skylight to really address and try to bring faith back into the category. And what we did was we actually took down our manufacturing facility right to the concrete and made a new skylight. We did not actually slap a sticker on the box. And really what we did is how we adhere that skylight to the roof deck. So prior to this, we had a few L brackets, depending on the size of the skylight, that actually held it to the roof deck. It was not a requirement to use some type of ice and water shield because A, it did not exist at the time. We were using tar paper for a little while. We did suggest that the skylight get wrapped. If it did or not was not a requirement. And then of course we had our flashing kit. So really we were relying just on our flashing kit to flash this skylight properly. And depending on the installation, they did better than others. Again, we've always had really good luck with Velux. But what we did with the change here is we changed those L brackets to an actual nailing fin and gasket. So that gasketing system, I tell people, it essentially suction cups to the roof deck, and you do have to nail it on. It's a really hard step to miss. If you miss this step, your skylight will slide right off your roof deck. So you have to nail it on, and therefore your gasket is going to compress. The second thing we did is we now package in our own adhesive underlayment. It is a requirement to wrap the skylight. We put it right in with our flashing kit, so it's again a really hard step to miss. So that's our second step. And the third step is with our own, I guess, custom to each size window, head and sill flashing with step flashing. And this is specifically for an asphalt roof, but we have other options if you have different type of roofing material. But with those three steps, we are more than confident your skylight will not leak. And therefore, we've given it a no leak warranty. And the no leak warranty is a really bold warranty. And I think that kind of helps people understand that they're not going to have any issues. But if the skylight does leak at the roof deck, that's where we were seeing problems years and years ago with all types of manufacturers, we're going to replace not only the unit, we'll also pay for any labor and also pay for any damages on the interior. You do not have to register these products. You do not need to be a special installer. As long as you do those three things, which are very easy for us to see if we go come check it out, then we will, it's a no leak warranty. The warranty kicks into place. Since we've come out with this, we have not had any complaints of leaking at the roof deck. I'm extremely transparent. We are a manufacturer. We are not perfect. If we do see things, it's sometimes in the seal of the glass, which carries a 20-year warranty. And then, of course, sometimes in the hinges. But again, it's very, very infrequent that we have any issues. I did touch on Velux Active. I won't go too much more into that unless somebody has a question at the end. But it's just a simple system that comes with 3 pieces. It hooks up through our home Wi-Fi, through an app on the phone. It's very, very intuitive and easy to use. Here's the interface on our phone. Again, if you have multiple rooms, you can label them in multiple rooms. If you select a room, it then shows the humidity, the temperature, the CO2, and you are able to physically open up your skylight or blind through the app just by sliding the button. It doubles as a remote control, and you can do that from anywhere. So if you want to open up your skylights in your Cape home while you're up in New Hampshire for the weekend to vent out the space and you have Velux Active turned off, you can slide that open, and as long as your Wi-Fi is working, your skylight and your blinds will communicate. These are flat roof skylights. It is a product line that we've been selling in Europe for quite a while, and we recently imported these all over to our South Carolina distribution center. It's really a solution and a much better looking solution to our fixed curb mounted skylight. It also is a lot more energy efficient because of the nature of the PVC curb that comes with the unit, that has to be installed with the unit. You can see this circle here is also showing a double glazed glass unit. So this is where really the energy efficiency is coming from. And then you have a top piece. This specifically is our curb shaped glass. Our current fixed curb mounts, we warranty those for leakage completely flat on the roof. However, sometimes aesthetically, if you get a pool of water there because there's no pitch, the water evaporates and you get a ring of water left there, maybe some dirt and debris. With the curb shaped glass, we allow for some water drainage there. We have one other top here with the polycarbonate protective cover. It's still going to be this same curb with the double glazed unit underneath. So again, extremely energy efficient, but if you want some protection from the unit, you can do a polycarbonate cover. Same curb unit without the glass is we have a flat roof exit skylight. We have not had a solution for this for quite a long time, so it's been really popular. We only released it in July to get up on those roof decks in Boston and our cities that people want to get out either to enjoy their roof deck or to get out to fix mechanicals or things that might exist on the roof. They all come in standard sizes, so it is kind of hard for a retrofit, but if you can change that opening, it can certainly take those skylights. I always talk about our venting solar skylight when we're talking about new product. We've had this product out for about 7 years, but I talk about this all the time, and I can't tell you how many people don't know that it exists. The venting solar skylight, it has not entirely replaced our electric skylight. We still have an electric skylight. They sell for the exact same price per size, but again, you don't have to involve an electrician, so you're saving on install costs. This is technically a battery powered unit. The battery sits on the interior within the skylight, and this cell on the outside is actually continuously charging the battery on the inside. Next to that here is a rain sensor. It's actually detecting the acoustics of rain, so as soon as it hears the rain drops on that sensor, it closes down. The other really nice thing about this unit is that the homeowner or the end user is eligible for a 30% federal tax credit. And that tax credit, which I'll show you the math later, is eligible for the unit, all of the labor and materials, and really whatever it costs that contractor to get the skylight into the roof. So again, we'll see the math in a minute, but 30% of the job coming back on the homeowner can be very fruitful. It's not $20 or $30, and depending on how many units you use, it can be a few $1,000s or more. So really a really obvious unit. There's certainly nothing wrong with our manual venting skylights, but it does require a human to open them up. And when there's the ease of a touch of a button with a rain sensor, you're just going to get more usability out of this unit and really be able to move air more efficiently. Moving back to the sun tunnels, a new product for us within the last 2 years is this solar powered nightlight. It ties into the 30% tax credit, and really what it does is that you cannot see this from the ground, but it sits up in the tube of our skylight, our sun tunnel, and as soon as it detects daylight no longer is there anymore in darkness, it emits just a little bit of a nightlight, just like a child's nightlight in their bedroom. If you need high task light, like in a kitchen, we do have a way to put mechanical lights up in the sun tunnel, but for a bathroom where maybe you just need to get a drink of water in the middle of the night, or a hallway where you don't want to kick the dog, this is a perfect amount of light that omits just a little bit. And again, 30% tax credit for the homeowner on the entire scope of the job. To give you an idea, the average sun tunnel installs for about $1,200. So that would be about $400 coming back to them, a third of the job. When they do their taxes. Velux factory installs blinds. We've been doing this for quite a while. We understand that roofers or remodelers sometimes don't want to put the blind in. It's sometimes difficult to do after the skylight is installed. Possible, but definitely a little bit more difficult. At the time of ordering the skylight, if you notate that you would like a blind put in, the Velux will do that free of charge. We don't charge more for the blind, so it comes right in there. We offer it in 10 different colors, 5 in room darkening, which is our double pleated blinds, and these are going to be the most energy efficient. And then we have 5 in the light filtering or single pleated blinds. Again, if you're selling skylights or offering skylights, I really recommend putting some type of blind in there for the obvious reasons of filtering light, but the less obvious is the energy efficiency. We have a way with our factory installed blinds to offer that 30% tax credit. So we call this our Go Solar model, meaning we're taking a unit that doesn't have any solar capabilities in our fixed unit or our manual venting unit. We are going solar by adding a factory installed solar powered blind into the unit. This immediately makes it more energy efficient. It has a solar component. We give you a way to program that blind, and now the homeowner gets a 30% tax credit. The 30% tax credit I get questions on all the time. The 30% goes till the end of this year. It does start to go down 26% next year and 22% the following year. We do not know the future of it. It's expired and come back before, so we're not quite sure where it will go after 2021. There's no cap on this. And again, it's for the skylights, the flashing, the blinds, materials, and all the labor. It is extremely easy to fill out for the homeowner. All they need is to fill out this 5695 form. They need to know how much the job costs, everything included, labor, materials. They put it again on line 5, they multiply it by 30%, and then they carry it over to their 1040 form on line 53, and that's it. If they were to get audited, they would need some type of receipt from contractor to show that they are a legitimate company, that they paid the cost, and then they would need a manufacturer certification statement from Velux, which we have right on our website. So it is very, very easy. It's a dollar for dollar credit. It is not a deduction. It is real money. Here's an example here. The install cost is very, very hard for us to do at Velux because we are kind of making up numbers here, but this is a very conservative replacement cost. So taking one out, putting one in, probably at the time that you're doing a roof. And the example here is a VS, so that's a manual skylight, so no solar components. After an install, homeowner pays $1,140. If they upgrade to a solar powered skylight, it's about double in the unit. The install cost is going to remain the same. It's really no different for the installer. Homeowner pays $1,805 out of pocket, but that cost is eligible for the tax credit. So they can expect to get a $542 credit. And after it's all said and done, they're upgrading to a solar powered skylight that they can press a button, rain sensor for $123. So if you are trying to show a homeowner this, I recommend putting pen to paper. I say all the time, 30% of nothing is nothing. So if they think it's going to be $50, then probably not worth the trouble. But if you're looking at $500 to $2,000 to $10,000 tax credit, now it's a little bit more. Now we're talking. Here's an example of Go Solar model. So again, taking a unit that's not solar component, meaning a fixed skylight. Fixed skylight after install, you're looking at $901. You're going solar by adding that solar powered blind. We did not mark it up in this case. It's $385. Again, it's no different for the installer. It comes in the unit. They just have to put it in. Homeowner pays $1,286 out of pocket after a tax credit. In this scenario, they get the blind for free. And again, they're going to also have some additional energy efficiency. And the last one I'll show you is just a manual venting unit. So the product cost is a little bit more. And when you do the math out, they're going to get that blind for free, $458 credit, and they're making $75. So again, it's really a no-brainer. I didn't use new cut-ins, but new cut-ins, remember, are much more expensive because you're talking about framing, taping, mudding, painting, all of that when you're doing a new build. So you can certainly factor all of that in there, including the roofing material. I have 2 more slides left for you guys, then I can take some questions. A system that is, again, a European system is our Velux modular skylights. These can be really used for commercial, but also residential as well. They are composite skylights that really click together on a curb. They are self-supported, so there is no framing in between these units. So if you were to take these units out as one big giant rough opening, The advantage to these units is a couple things. First, you have the ability to vent each panel. You can actually do every other panel, so you get the venting capability, and also you can put electric roller shades in here as well. You can keep them just fixed with no roller shades, but there's a lot of different things you can do with them. And really whatever you can think up as with your architect, we can do it long light. This is 5 to 25 degrees. We have a north light. It really kind of checks a lot of boxes for what you're trying to accomplish. And we've been seeing them a lot more in residential applications. I think, yeah. So lastly, if you did not know, we acquired a company called Wasco out of Wells, Maine. We are still operating under the name as Wasco, but we're eventually calling it Velux Wells. We really purchased this company for their custom and commercial capabilities. So their monumental skylights, when we first went up there for some training, if I learned nothing from walking out of there, I learned that yes, they can, if you can think it up. So they can pretty much do anything in terms of an opening with a pitched glazing, and have a lot of different custom options. So we're seeing these again in commercial and high-end residential. There are some limitations where we sold against them for years because they can't really vent these units and there's no shading options. So if you're looking for that, you would probably use that modular system, but a lot of really beautiful designs that they can make up in Wells. And then this is the one other product that we talk about quite a bit. I constantly get people asking me for large pieces of glass, which is very easy to do when you're just standing that glass vertically, but when you put it on a pitch, the glass is heavy, you don't want it falling in your house. So for a long time, we've had certain size restraints that we could not do at Velux. With the introduction of Wasco, they can make what's called a SkyMax unit. This is a curb-mounted unit. It's a fixed unit. It goes and spans up to 32 square feet. And if somebody's looking for that big piece of glass, this is what they can do. And we can make this custom to whatever your outside curb dimension is. So that's all I have for you guys today. Again, I hope that I wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel here. I hope you learned some stuff. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those now.
Lauren, Scott Palmer here. That was really a nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love sun tunnels. I've used them in the past. Looking to do it again, and I have to admit I've been on the Velux customer support website, and the customer service on the chat and on the phone have been fantastic.
Excellent. That's good to hear.
Yeah, they are really great, and they have a lot of great product lines. I'm really impressed with the Velux Live piece. That's very interesting to me with the way things are going these days. So I'll quit chatting. I will open up the phones. If there's anybody has a question, fire away. I think there's if you don't have a question, please try to keep your phone on mute. One question that occurs to me, Lauren, and I don't know if it's an installation type question. What goes on when a house is already fitted with skylights, but you find a need to put solar panels, and you find a need to put skylights in your upper levels?
Are you talking about when people put solar panels on their roof, or when they replace their skylights?
Yeah, when they have a solar panel on their roof, solar system on the roof, and they decide to do skylights, is it a problem at all, installation wise?
Yeah, they certainly need some landscape up there and some area to cut in, but yeah, they do need. I know the roof is becoming a very popular place to put things on. People are seeing it as a place to expand, especially with the solar panels. But yeah, you do need to be able to cut into the roof somewhere. Yep. I think a lot we see it with replacement. So you'll see solar panels in like a U shape because the skylight's there. So you can work around it with the solar panels. But I think, and I know this wasn't exactly your question, but if you are looking to put solar panels on your roof, I think oftentimes solar panel companies and roofers recommend that you have a good roof and it's been replaced. But also, while you're replacing your roof, it is the best time to replace your skylights, sure, whether they're giving you a problem or not. But if everything's brand new on the roof, meaning the roofing, the skylight, and the solar panel, shouldn't have too many issues there.
All right, thank you. We have a Stuart saying thank you for the insight. Appreciate it. And I think we have another moment for any questions out there. And with that, Lauren, again, thanks again. It was an excellent presentation. We will get the posting up there and let people know that it exists. And
Alrighty.
I thank you very much. So have a great day, everybody.
All right. Thanks for all your time, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lauren.